should be good to go.
Oh, thank you, Sarah. Welcome. It's called to order for our February 8th meeting. Welcome, everyone. It's nice to see you again. It's another virtual meeting. Eventually, we'll get a chance to see each other in person. I look forward to that. So, call to order was at 7:01. Number 2 is our land acknowledgement statement. We acknowledge that we are on the traditional land of the Anishinaabe people. We wish to recognize the long history of Indigenous people of Canada and show our respect to them today. We recognize your stewardship of the land. May we all live with respect on this land and live in peace and friendship. Thank you. Number 3, ladies and gentlemen, if you're following the agenda that's posted in front of you, we will be looking at the agenda and any additions too. Does anyone have anything they would like to add to the agenda before we approve our agenda for this evening? Okay, I hear silence there, so I assume there are no additions to the agenda. Would somebody like to make the motion to approve our agenda for this evening? Thank you, Matt. Seconded by Bernice. All in favor of the agenda this evening? Thank you. I was told recently that I go a little quick during our meetings. If at any time anybody feels that I am pushing the pace too much, please just speak up and say, Terry, slow down, please. So I apologize. I guess in a few other meetings, I tended to, that people felt I was rushing us, so I apologize. Number 4, declarations of pecuniary interests. Any conflicts with anybody this evening in terms of any of the issues that we're about to bring up? Silence tells me that there are none, so we'll move on to business arriving from our minutes. Would you please take a moment? I know most of you have likely gone through and read the moments from the previous meeting. That was our January 27th meeting. Were there any comments, questions in regards to our minutes from that evening? I can provide one piece of clarity. I went back and checked my notes from quite a while ago. John McLeod inquired whether his position on PCIN was a 2-year appointment. I checked back. All the appointments when they were made, John, were made for 2 years. So any other questions or concerns about our January 28th meeting? If not, we can go forward. I'm sorry, did someone speak?
Me, Shirley. It says I was at the meeting and I was not present.
Oh, well, we'll make sure that is adjusted now. And sorry about that, Shirley.
It's okay.
Just think if you were getting paid for it, I would have said, don't say anything.
Yeah.
Thank you, Shirley. I appreciate that. And we'll make sure Sarah will make the adjustment that Shirley Lynch was not present on the January 28th board meeting. Any other adjustments that need to be made? Thank you. I need a motion to approve the minutes from the January 28th meeting. Thank you, Becky. Seconded by. Thank you, Bernice. All in favor? Fine. The minutes are approved from the January 22nd meeting. We've referred to minutes business arising from the minutes, and we've corrected both those. We clarified John's and corrected Shirley's, so thank you. We have the financial reports that go from December 16th and finish off on January 27th. They're fairly extensive. At this point, before we go forward with the approval of our accounts payable, does anyone have any questions in regards to any of the expenditures that were made during that time? I have a couple, if nobody else does. On page 8, Ellen, did we really spend $923.44 on light bulbs?
We did.
Okay.
So the light bulbs at the listable library get changed all together at the same time.
Okay.
And while we were doing accreditation, we noticed they were slowly burning out. So there's about maybe 30% burning out by the end of the year. So we bought the light bulbs last year because we had it in the budget. And we're going to get them installed this year when facilities can help us out with that.
No, I understand your approach, and I thought that likely was it. You do a total change out. And I had a couple other questions, and other people, if you have a question, just pipe up. The one was on page 9, the $1,459 donation expense, midway down. You're coming to it right
Yes.
now. What is a donation expense?
So we get donations sometimes that are flagged for certain things. So branches get their own donations and we get them in general. I believe this donation expense was we bought some materials for the Atwood Library for refreshing the bathroom, but I will double check and bring that back next meeting, Terry, of what that actually was if you're interested.
Just was curious, and I had one other one which I thought was weird, and I'm sure you can provide the clarity on page 10, $906.50 for socks.
So yeah, that one's a fun one too. So that's about our summer programming this year. So last year we did swim the Great Lakes, and for each kilometer of the Great Lakes, kids read a certain amount. This year we're doing hike the G to G with the same concept of walking the G to G. So we had some money left over, and we were planning for the summer, and we were able to buy some socks that have printed on the bottom. Read the G to G, made it to Moncton on the bottom of the socks. So because we had a little bit extra, we thought we would give a bit of an extra prize because we weren't sure too if we would still be running our program through pandemic restrictions again.
Well, thank you, Alan. I thought there was a reasonable explanation. I didn't think we were into equipping everybody in Listowel with socks this year. And I thank you. And I'm not making light of it, but I just was curious about what those expenditures were.
I totally.
And there's one that I'll leave to you to discuss later, and it still is on page 10 for $22,741.25 related to the hub. And I'll leave that to you until later on in the meeting because I think you'll bring clarity to that one at that time.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. Anybody else with any questions in regards to our accounts payable? You guys are all too quiet tonight.
Terry, do you mind if I clarify 7.1.1?
Yes.
Is that Mercedes-Benz expense? It came up last month of why we were charged twice. I had thought we were refunded, but I did double check, and we were refunded those costs the way I had expected it to be.
Well, thank you, Ellen. I'm not trying to be picky, but I do go through all the accounts receivable and payable all the time, so I find them interesting to read. At this time, we need a motion to approve our accounts payable from December 16th to January 27th. Would somebody like to make that motion, please?
I can.
Thank you, Becky. Seconded by, is that you, Shirley?
Yes.
Thank you, Shirley. All in favor? Thank you. And Ellen, provide clarity to 7.11, so we'll move on. I turn it over to Becky at this point. Becky, do you have any updates in regards to the Friends report?
No, there's nothing to report for the Friends.
Okay, well, thank you. Moving on to section 9 of our meeting tonight, it is board development. At this point, I will turn it over to Ellen at 9.1. Ellen.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. So the yellow is highlighted as the additions we added. We do have to change a few things already. We didn't get the year-end statements for today's meeting. We'll do that in March. And the in-camera session has been moved to February, I think. But the advocacy strategic planning had been added to May. And I think in October, there's the advocacy piece around Ontario Public Library Week has been added as well. And John's suggestion of reviewing Fine Free in November. So those all were additions from last meeting.
Thank you. Any questions of Ellen in regards to our annual work plan? Okay, Ellen, at this time, should we seek a motion to approve the annual work plan? Are you?
That would be my request.
Okay. At this point, we are asking for a motion to approve the 2022 Library Board Work Plan. Would somebody like to make that motion? Do you have a question, Leanne, or are you making the motion?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Leanne. Who would like to second the motion?
I can.
Thank you, Matt. All in favor of the annual learning plan? I'm sorry, I apologize, for the library work plan. Thank you. Thank you. Motion approved. 9.2, again, I turned to Ellen. Ellen and I had a discussion on this item, and we've noticed a trend, and she wishes to make us aware of this trend. So Ellen, again, I turn it back to you. Intellectual freedom policy review.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. So as Terry mentioned, there is a growing trend, especially in the United States, about book challenges, book bannings. There have even been cases of book burnings. And with this kind of news, it kind of slowly makes its way north. There was a challenge out of the Waterloo Region School Board that had happened. So we just want to make sure that our board is prepared. And I wanted to present these policies again. We did just review them last year, but I wanted to just remind the board, refresh the board on where we stand on intellectual freedom and diversity pieces in our collection. We do have forms at the desk in our library spaces for people to submit a reconsideration of materials. And we do have something online if people prefer form. Those forms go right to me as per our collection policy, and we review it with our collection policy in mind to make the decisions on the materials that are in our library spaces. But for now, it's just for your information, for your reminder, if people are coming to you as board members, to know the actions that you can direct them to, so they can have an outlet if they need, if they really feel that strongly. We so far have not had any challenges, and our Perth libraries haven't either, as far as I have heard.
Thank you, Ellen. Any questions or comments of Ellen in terms of the intellectual freedom of our libraries? Go ahead, Leanne.
Thanks. I apologize. I haven't had enough time to take a look at this exact policy. For some reason, I don't have a package, the library package for this meeting, and it's not posted online. So I didn't have a chance to look at it in advance, but this is a really, really important policy that we should have really, really clear and know that it's going to back us up. Because I think a challenge to our collection could happen at any time, and it's probably quite imminent. So I'd like to spend a bit of time on this. The only problem is I haven't had much time to review it. Are there other policies in other libraries that we should be aware of, in order to make sure that everything's in here? Like any thoughts on that, Ellen?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. So we can definitely bring it back next meeting if you'd like, Leanne, with a few more examples. The one that we use is modeled after the one presented by the Ontario Library Service. So it references the Canadian, it's CFLA. It's the Canadian Freedom
Federation of Library Associations.
Thank you. I can never remember the acronyms. So we reference that as the policy, that it's all the Canadian libraries, that freedom piece. And our diversity one is brand new. So there probably is room for adjustment there. But if you'd like, even specific libraries, we always look at the big city ones to make sure we can be on par that way. Especially with Toronto, they have had a lot of cause in the last maybe 10 years to really lean on their policy as well. So we can definitely bring it back if you'd like, Leanne.
Yeah, because right now I can, Simon thankfully just sent me the package, but I can only see like number 1 and number 2 in bits of it. So it might be worthy of taking a really close look at it, because I know that at the school board, which I'm involved at this point, is being challenged on material that's connected to different communities like LGBTQ or other cultural communities, which is pretty nerve-wracking, right? We really want to make sure we've got everything covered that we want to in this policy. So just a thought. I think we should look at it carefully. Thanks.
And very minimally, Leanne, it should be referencing our diversity policy, which is brand new and it doesn't right now.
And I actually, that's when I'm looking at this at first blush, again, I've only seen this very briefly. That's what the first thing that's screaming out at me is that I'm not seeing the diversity component represented in this at all, which is making me extremely nervous that this is not going to cover us enough if we're challenged. So I think we should defer this if possible, Terry, to the next meeting and maybe take a harder look at it to make sure it's covering all the bases.
Ellen and I have had the conversation already, and it was an awareness. We wanted to make the board aware of the potential. So it was an awareness issue this evening, but we certainly can revisit this in the future. Ellen and I have discussed it, and ultimately at this point, Ellen is accountable. She'll make the decision within the library, and Ellen has said she would naturally come to the board to provide clarification of what if there was a serious question in regards to removing a piece from the library. So no, we can extend this to, if you'd like to place it in our March meeting, we can move it to our March agenda. At this point, I'll just make a note of it so I have it in my notes. And Ellen, is that okay with you?
Yep.
And if we can get additional information, I have some from the conference because that was a hot discussion item at the conference we were at too, about the control of the materials within the library system. And it even came down to what was hanging on the walls, not even so much books, but anything that is in the library facilities is up for discussion, basically. So, so we'll move it to our March meeting. Thank you. Any other comments before we move on?
Just a quick question, Terry, through you. Do you think you'll be reworking this at all, Ellen, before we look at it? What are your thoughts?
If that's what the board's like, I can definitely compare it to big libraries who have had those intellectual freedom conversations and disputes and look at it that way. It could be considered a policy review and we can set it that way. It's probably a good one to review every year anyway. We do have a diversity and inclusion policy, and yeah, it's very minimally, it's going to be referenced properly.
Yeah, that's what I would want to see the next time we look at it, is that included in this too, if possible.
Ellen,
Yeah.
you sent me the information for board self-evaluation. Could we pull from that same source to see what they're looking at? And we could also go online to the Ontario Library Services. They have endless amounts of material, and I'm sure we likely could find something to pull as well in terms of censorship and as well. So
We'll be for
so
that.
we can. I think it would be nice if the board had it and had a chance to preview it. So when we had the discussion the next time, we're not reviewing the documents. We have an understanding of documents that exist to try to revamp our own. So that will come to you likely before the meeting, just so you're aware of that. Thank you, Ellen. Ellen and I have discussed this because we were quite concerned over we talked about many of the books that are being currently banned, Mouse, all the different books that you've well aware, Roald Dahl's Witches, even Harry Potter's The Sorcerer's Stone, all the different books out there that somebody has said is inappropriate for a library setting. And so it is interesting that we're facing censorship at this time. I'm going to move on to 9.3. 3 members of the board, 2 members of the board and Ellen participated in the Ontario Library Association conference for 5 days last week. I'll share what I experienced, but I'll first invite my other 2 colleagues who were there as well to share any of their highlights from the conference. So Bernice, would you like to start?
Certainly. As you all know, I do love going to the conference. I must admit, sometimes, particularly during COVID, you get tired of things, but it just rejuvenated me so much in terms of what we can do as a library and what we should be doing. I can't say enough about the Saturday section, which is devoted definitely to board members. So, Alan, I don't know if we're able to have some of our board members catch part of it. It's really interesting to have the opportunity to share ideas, see what other people are doing, see whether we should up our game or not, or how. The other session I attended was actually the one about the library that was constructed, I believe, in Waterloo, and looking at their design and particularly their design in consideration of being a library in a currently COVID, eventually post-COVID world. So I don't have particulars on me right now. I can't find my file that I made all my notes on. But I can't say enough about the conference. And some of them I had to miss because I had few meetings that came up unexpectedly, but I'm looking forward to going back. The one in particular was there was a session on fines, which I know can be a loaded topic. So unfortunately, I missed that one. So can't say enough about the conference, and I'm definitely going to be applying my learnings as we go along.
Thank you, Bernice. I echo much of what you said. It really does reinvigorate you. And if you're at all interested in libraries, it makes you think, wow, this is a phenomenal world. It would be nice to rent a minivan and put all the board in a minivan and cruise into Toronto the next conference and have everyone have an opportunity to walk around and be part of it, whether it's at the exhibitions, whether it's in the poster workshops, whether it's in the conferences or the live, well, I refer to it as live speakers during the conference. We were all excited when somebody was really present when we were there. So I'll turn it over to Ellen to share her experiences.
Thank you, Terry. So I found some of the most impactful ones about how the library board can advocate with the municipality. Our municipality is changing a lot, and I think there's really room for that with a whole new staff. Well, not even room. It's almost an essential for us to do, making sure some of those new staff really understand the library and the value it brings to the community. I found those were the most impactful, and a few of those were live. The library, if you are interested in accessing the material, I think the access is until August.
August 30th.
Because we serve a smaller community, board member admissions were actually no cost. So I'm sure that would carry on if you do still want access to it, and we can sign up for that. A lot of the sessions were pre-recorded and are very easy to go back to. And the ones I had watched that were recorded were quite well done. So it is worth it if you have the time and impetus to do that.
Thank you, Ellen. Oh, sorry. Continue if you have.
Oh, sorry.
Nope, I think it was Bernice.
Sorry, Ellen. I got so excited I cut you off. My apologies. I also want to say my appreciation to our counselors that are on our library board, because we have such an important relationship that we need to maintain, develop, and nurture with our council. And I can't say enough about the council members that are on our board presently, that your interest, activity, and caring in the best interests of both the municipality plus the library. That's a very fine balancing act. And every time they were saying things about counselors, I'm like, we have such awesome people on our board. This is fabulous. So I just want to say thank you. And Ellen, I have to echo what you said as well, that this year, if you get a chance, any of the other members, if you could take a look at what they were talking about, the advocacy and awareness in terms of being on a municipal level. And again, forgive me for jumping in.
Thank you, Bernice. I'll do a quick share. I wrote 27 pages last week, so I won't read the 27 pages to you. It is one of the most invigorating conferences, and I've had a chance to attend many different ones over the years, even reading for the love of it in different ones. But I started last Tuesday, and I finally had to start weaning myself off on Friday. But I have to say, I thought of our board many, many times. I know I kept thinking of John and Matt when I attended one called Finally Fine Free, and it was an analysis of the fine free movement within Canada. And at this point, 21% of all libraries in Canada have gone fine free. But they did the statistical analysis and showed you that economically we are in a smarter position by going fine free than charging. So it was a really interesting, it would be nice to bring them to a board meeting when we're trying to make a decision on something. It was a fascinating thing. I attended things on fine free, a great deal about Indigenous rights and Indigenous libraries and respecting those Indigenous philosophies and working them into your library in a meaningful way, because they feel many times it is done in a way that is almost insulting to the Indigenous community. I had the opportunity to watch many, many authors, and I found out about a marvelous publishing firm in St. Mary's, Ontario, that is publishing quite hot authors across Canada. And I shared that with Ellen. I said, maybe we can access or tap into that resource. The one that everybody's implied was there was a great deal of talk about relationships with your municipal governments and your municipal partners. And I have to say, the one that got me was called Inviting the Dragon for Tea. And it was inviting and please, Leanne and Matt, do not take offense to it, but was inviting the counselors and getting them on board with the policies and philosophies that the mission that the libraries are following. It was a fantastic conference. As Ellen has mentioned, all the sites are available until the 30th of August. And if somebody really wants to go, I'll give you my access code. I visited everything, so it wouldn't look unusual if somebody was using my code to access some of the different ones. There were unbelievable opportunities to meet with people. I sat down with Ellen today and I told her about, because we do not deal with the ongoing management of the libraries. We're just a governing body. But I said, I went to all these poster demonstrations and I said, I learned so much. They did a marvelous one. It's called the Cafe. And they had carpenters come in and they spent a Saturday morning showing people how to use power tools and opening up their how-do library. They had superhero Saturday mornings where they invited the children to come in their superhero pajamas. And I just saw so many engaging and exciting things. And I will stop there because I said I wrote 27 pages and I was all excited about many things. I learned many new words that I did not know existed. Citizen centricity, I did not know about that until I attended the conference. And the new disability, which is neurodiversity, which is a whole new one for me. So maybe someday I can share those, my vocab lesson that I had with you people. It was fascinating. And I recommend in the future, if you are part of the board, participate in it. It is worth every minute of being there. And you have a few laughs. They had stand-up comedians. The social hours online, guys, are a very different type of social hours. So they had a spelling bee. So I will close it at this point. If anybody has any questions about the Ontario Library Association conference, please email Bernice, Ellen, or myself, and we can certainly share some of the exciting things that we experienced. So thank you for allowing us to go. I appreciate that. Ellen, would you like to move us to 10.1, the COVID update?
Yes, thank you, through Mr. Chair. Our COVID update, we have opened our library branch back up for patrons to come back into our library spaces. Yes, we're very excited to invite them all back. Even yesterday, I think we had about 111 people through the doors in Listowel, which was about triple that we were having last week with curbside. So we're very excited to have the community back in. We're still doing our passport program and helping people print and navigate that space as they're still required. I do have one request of the board tonight. We have been following municipal policies in terms of COVID guidelines, in terms of sanitation, in terms of masking, in terms of spacing, as well as the provincial guidelines. But we've taken a lot of lead from the municipality. We did, before we closed, have a bit of an issue with a patron who really believed that he shouldn't have to be masked in our space. So I'm hoping tonight that the library board can confirm that endorsement that we're using those municipal policies and procedures in place, and that we do require masks in our public spaces of our libraries.
Any questions of Ellen in regards to this? Go ahead, Matt.
Thank you, Ellen, for that. I didn't realize that we were actually experiencing that. But if someone is absolutely adamant about not wearing a mask in a municipally owned facility, even though it's governed by the board, the mandate is still put forward in a public space by the municipality, and those rules need to be adhered to. Whether he or she likes it or not, might be a good opportunity to download material from online from the comfort of his own home if he doesn't choose to do so. So I'm strongly no exceptions. Everyone else seems to have done their part to wear a mask everywhere from length and breadth to everything else that if he needs to, as far as he going into a municipal facility, even the mayor and anyone else who's on municipal chambers who's conducting a meeting wears a mask. Even more so where the public is going to be involved, wears a mask as well, full stop.
Thank you, Matt. Anyone else? Leanne, did you have a comment? I thought I saw your hand at one point, but.
Sure, I just echo what Matt was saying, absolutely 100%. And you know, our municipal guidelines are based on provincial guidelines as well, and
Yes.
public health guidelines. And those bodies of government really, you know, determine what our best steps are. And as a municipality, as Matt said, we have the rules in place, just like most municipalities do in all of our buildings. And um, that's the expectation of us on the public as well, even though there may be a couple of people that come in and out. The general public want us to be following those rules. And I agree with Matt. There, full stop. There should be no exceptions. Thanks.
Thank you, Leanne. Anyone else? John, sorry, I don't see you there for a moment, John. Have we lost John?
I don't see him.
I believe we've just lost John, so hopefully he'll come back. Becky, Shirley, Bernice, any comments in regards to the COVID policy?
I agree with Matt and Leanne. We have to follow the public guidelines, which is public health and municipal. So I'm fine with it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I second that.
Thank you. Shirley, did you wish to say anything?
No, I totally agree. No exceptions whatsoever.
Earlier today, Ellen and I had this discussion, and I said, even under provincial legislation that is currently out there, we must follow the mandate that is outlined there, and it reflects that of the municipal policy for wearing masks inside for the safety of both our staff and for our clients that come in. So, no, I understand Ellen's, and I appreciate where she's coming from. So I'll make a motion. I suggest we make a motion that we approve the municipal policy for COVID procedures within our municipal facilities, that they reflect that of the municipality. Would that be fine, Ellen?
Yes, thank you.
I'm sorry. The motion was made by Becky, seconded by, it looked like Shirley. All in favor? Thank you. And thank you, Ellen. I appreciate that you are dealing with, when you have to deal with somebody who can be difficult. It's nice that we know you're there, that someone can handle it and support our employees while they're trying to do their job. So thank you.
Yeah, it was a bit of a surprise that we got our first real disagreement about it a year and a half to 2 years in with our policies. I would like to point out, though, like anyone who's not willing to wear a mask is offered curbside service, or we direct them online. So there are services for people who are unable or unwilling, and we have people using our curbside services every day just because they don't yet feel comfortable entering the building.
Well, you're offering an alternative, which is the correct way to manage it. And if they're not accepting of it, they have to accept that. I hate to put it this way, but they're not welcome in the facility en masse at this time. So thank you for doing what you do. I appreciate that. Ellen, would you like to lead us in 10.3, which is the hub update?
Yes, thank you through you, Mr. Chair. So you'll see our branch update looks a little bit different this year. We wanted to present the board with a little bit more information. We found the previous reports were not giving you the full picture of all the services we were doing and the reach we were trying to achieve over social media pieces. So you can see our little craft there from December, the winter break. We couldn't make enough of these little kits. They flew out of the door the first day and we scrambled to make some more. So we are having that impact even though we were closed at that time. But you'll see the stats are presented a little bit differently. And this report is completely welcome for feedback. If you'd like to see something else, if it's too much, please let us know and we'll finesse it. This report, the stats will fill in per month this way as it did previously. We wanted to give you a little bit of more of that community outlook and community comments in our report as well. And yeah, so if there's any feedback there, any questions, I'd be happy to take them. We've roped in another staff member to participate in this. Megan is our digital services librarian. So she takes care of a lot of the digital programming and the social media. So we've got her to get in some stats here as well.
I really like the idea of Ellen of having a digital set of statistics. It's often the one that's quickly overlooked because it's not the hard copy, but it is nice to know interactions in terms of our Facebook or Instagram or Twitter and whatever. So no, I really appreciate that. Thank you. Any other comments from board members? Well, thank you. Thank you, board. It'll be interesting to see the stats as they evolve throughout the year too, Ellen. Basically, one line is not the most fascinating list of statistics. We have very little to compare
It
to.
is not, but it does show in general that 2021 was better than 2020 despite the COVID restrictions.
Yes.
Our numbers were higher.
And let's hope they continue to work that way as the year moves along. I don't think anybody wants to face any other changes. So thank you so much, Ellen. And that brings us to other business. Is there anything else that people wish to share or discuss before we move to our in-camera session?
Did you want to do the hub update, Terry?
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm moving a little too quick again. I apologize. Ellen, yes, the hub update.
The hub update. So the hub update, there's not much from January. You did see in the accounts that we had our final payment come out at the end of the last year, and that's reflected in our accounts. We have been assured by the United Way that the financial commitment of the library and kind of the municipality at large right now is complete. It's shifting towards more of a United Way project. They have hired Mitchell Rhodes, and he has started, so he's getting onboarded to the project, and we're moving forward from there. So we'll probably take, if it's okay with the board, we'll take this off as a recurring agenda item and probably just give quarterly reports as information progresses. We're still being consulted and we're still getting information, but right now it's not super relevant to the library.
Any questions or comments in terms of the hub? Well, thank you, Ellen. And I know Ellen has attended, as it has Bernice and myself, many, many meetings in regards to the hub. So it's kind of an interesting shift now as we move forward and the United Way takes lead hand on it. So thank you, Ellen, for everything you've done so far there. I know you've carried that for us, so we appreciate that. As we move to number 12, did anybody have a question? I'm sorry about the hub. I just heard somebody speak. Okay. If we have any other business. Oh, I go ahead, Leanne.
Yeah, I'm gonna just, if you don't mind, just for some other business. I just want to, on behalf of Matt, thank you for your accolades. Matt and I, we appreciate our role in this committee and on this board, and take it very seriously. One of the things that I've really continued to harp on this board is the importance of a strategic plan. And as you know, there will be an election this fall, and we as counselors can come and go very quickly because we don't know what what will happen with voters. Elections can swing very quickly, and we may come and go. We don't know. It just depends on what happens with what voters want. And I guess what I'm trying to say is that as different council members come and go, the strategic plan that's created by the board is absolutely critical because it's your driver. It's what keeps you on the right pathway, on the right journey, and keeps you steered in the right direction. If you have councillors that come and go that don't have the right understanding, the right, um, you know, advocacy, what can happen is that pathway could take a different turn. So I continue to raise a flag to say how important it is to have a strategic plan for a board like this when you have counselors that come and go within a 4-year period. Even if Matt and I were to stay on and be reelected, and I'm not sure where Matt is standing in terms of reelection, but we could also be placed on different committees and not placed on this committee. It's up to the mayor and the deputy mayor to decide who is placed on these boards. So again, I just want to, continue to advocate for this board to work on a strategic plan that is going to help you create even like a 2 to 3 year outlook about where you want to go, where you want to be, what your priorities are, those kinds of things, which will help you as counselors come and go. So I just thought I'd share that with you. And it's going to be top of mind for me because I really want this board to be successful. I really believe in libraries in our community, and you guys do a tremendous job. But as you've heard in through some of your work at these conferences, things can go south very quickly, just with different voices at the table. So just a thought. Thanks.
Thank you, Leanne. I don't want to speak for Ellen, but I know Ellen and I have had many discussions, and you'll notice on our annual work plan, the strategic plan is part of it. And we've also now started to reference it as a legacy plan because we realize we will enter a transitional period this year that we need to ensure that if we do not return either as board members, that there is an understanding of the direction we were moving this library board forward in. So as we move forward, and I believe it is in this spring that we do begin to look at that strategic plan. I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me, so I don't want to quote off of it without being accurate, but I can tell you we have discussed the transition. We have discussed building a legacy into the strategic plan for future. And we took your advice a while ago, Leanne. I wrote it down. Sometimes you don't see me writing things down, but when you brought this up a year and a half ago about visioning where we want it to go and what we want it to be in 4 years, I've documented all that, and we hope we can bring that back when we enter that strategic plan and build that for the success of this library board and the future of the 4 library systems that we have, Moncton and Atwood and Listowel and our digital library. So Bernice, go ahead. I'm sorry, is it, yes, Bernice, go ahead. Turn on your voice, please, on mute.
Thank you, Chair. Leanne, I agree with you that the strategic plan is critical and that we have to, it can take time and money to do it well. And I think that's a worthwhile investment. And I really think that we should make an effort to do that. The other thing that was reinforced to me during the OLA conference is that we are not isolated within our community, that we as a library board need to reflect what the municipality's strategic plan is. Where is the municipality going? And that we are, yes, we are our own entity, but if we can have some sort of synchronicity within the strategic plans of both the municipality and the library, we could be significantly further ahead. if we're very conscious of that as we develop the strategic plan for the library. And the other thing too, Terry, Chair, in terms of the legacy document, that was something that I learned several conferences ago, that the legacy document is something that we as a board, we look back at what we did well, what we did not do as well, things that we hope for the library board going forward. Because actually, Dan, you are quite correct. Just as maybe you're not necessarily aware who or if you'll be the counselors on the board, board members do not know if they'll be requested to sit on that board again as well. So I think the legacy document is similar to the strategic plan, but slightly different. But it also can make an impact as well.
Thank you, Bernice. John, are you with us? I'm going to share something. John,
I don't see him.
John and I had a discussion last. I'm sorry, Matt, is he here?
No, I'm just looking in the participants list and I do not see him in the list.
I don't see him either. That's why I was wondering. John, last week we were discussing the transition, the year-end transition that will come up and building a legacy plan. And one of the things John was very strong in his voice about was it would be nice that we have an opportunity to sit down around a table to build it. Because we were discussing, and I took a workshop on Zoom meetings from the University of Ottawa just recently about libraries in Ottawa, and the difference that you get from being in a room together when you're working on a strategic plan than in a Zoom meeting. So I respect it where John was coming from. I think he has a valid point that it would be nice to see us one day be able to sit together to build the strategic plan. And so hopefully that will happen sooner than later. The other thing is that you need to be well aware of next month is board evaluation, and that will begin that kind of legacy plan. We'll take a moment to reflect on what we've done, what we've accomplished, where we plan to go with the library board. So that will also contribute to the legacy plan and the strategic plan. So Ellen has done an excellent job beginning to build in those foundations that we need before we go on to build our total strategic plan and look at our transition in early fall next year. So again, any other comments before we conclude the other business? Matt.
Thank you. Through you, the chair. I just have to reiterate what Leanne had said about how important a strategic plan or at least a roadmap is. It's no different than anything else that the municipality does, whether it does a greenway master plan for parks or a transportation master plan. That's basically the entire or county strategic plan. It's basically a visual reference for a compass, that even if the board is completely replaced and councillors are completely replaced, it takes time and money to initiate it. But once you have it initiated and say, okay, this could be the roadmap for everything changes, everything can be fluid. This could be going on for 10 years or a 5-year plan or whatever. So if anything untoward were to happen in that 5 years or 10 years, depending on your mapping, then the next people who come in can just pick it up. It's like opening up a set of directions for something that an appliance you don't know how to work. Like if the set of directions are there, oh, this is how it works. This is how, and I'm not being flippant about it, but it's just basically because it can save a lot of time and money from, well, what did we do well in the past? Well, I don't know. What about you, Bill? I have no, it can be an awful lot of waffling and stopping and starting to go. But if you have something, and basically it's like your benchmarks that you can go through. So I have to agree with that it takes a while to get it executed and initiated, but once it's there, and then it's just a matter of updating it after that. So I just wanted to add my dragon's 2 cents to that. So.
Well, thank you, Matt. Leanne, would you like to add something?
And I think, one of the reasons why I've been, that I feel passionate about this and Matt supports that too, but I know it takes time. I know it takes a long time. I've been involved in many, many plans, long range plans, strategic plans for different purposes. And it does take a long time. And that's why I continue to say, at some point we have to get started. And it's to me, it's not a matter of, one meeting or two meetings. It can take almost an entire year to put something like this together. And that's what makes me nervous, is that, we're in February now and the next election's October, and we don't know what the outcome of that will be. So, it would be awesome that if at some point with COVID restrictions hopefully lightening up at some point, I would recommend having almost a day retreat where we spend some really big quality time together, even in the boardroom at the municipal office, and just do some really big quality work together, because um, I think it's so valuable, and it's going to take some concentrated time to do that, um, versus just at different meetings. So just a thought. And I can tell you, I feel the urgency with it, because I'm expecting a great deal of change. Um, it's just in the wind, right? So much is happening in our community. We're growing, and at the same time, COVID is going to have a continued impact as we move forward, and financials are going to change, and we've had a change in staffing, right? Ellen is on board at the moment, but the staffing can always be very fluid as well. So yeah, just that urgency is so important, and I know Matt's on the same page, so that's great. Thanks.
Thank you, Leanne. And I do think I speak for the vice chair and myself. We both were discussing that it cannot be achieved through board meetings. Board meetings are not the vehicle to develop a strategic plan. And your suggestion of a day's workshop might be the solution for that. But no, we've had that discussion, and we also realize that many of the things that will have to be discussed will be very hard. Sometimes decisions for the future won't make everyone happy, and so you have to put it out there. And I think we also know, Ellen and I have discovered that working with the hub, and I know Bernice has discovered this, that this is not something. We're working on it now, but we're talking about 2, 3, 4 years ahead of ourselves. So no, I think the strategic plan is vital, especially this year as we come to the conclusion of a group. And we certainly hope that whether we're on the board or not, that you and Matt continue to be an advocate for the libraries in North Perth. So thank you. Any other questions or comments before we close this session of the meeting? And I request Simon and Sarah to take us to an in-camera session. Okay. At this time, I'll ask for a motion to move us in camera in accordance to Section 239 of the Municipal Act. The closed session will be pertaining to personal matters about a member of our local library board. Thank you, Becky. Seconded by. Thank you, Matt. All in favor? Thank you. We'll be going, and Simon or Sarah, will you please let us know when we've arrived?
he should be good to go.
Thank you, Sarah. Much appreciated. We'll need a motion to adjourn our meeting tonight. I apologize for taking 2 hours of your time, but Becky's made the motion that we end this meeting, and the seconder is Bernice. All in favor of ending the meeting? That's great. I will see you all on March 8th at 7 p.m. and the format and location to be determined in the next couple of weeks. Have a good evening, everyone. I'll be in touch with you all in the next few days. Take care.
Thanks for everything